GEdwardGriffin, The Creature from Jekyll Island, a second look at the Federal Reserve. Embark on a fascinating journey to uncover the dark secrets behind the Federal Reserve in GEdwardGriffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, a second look at the Federal Reserve. This summary will take you through the clandestine creation of the central bank, its misnomer, and its dangerous effects on the American economy and global politics. Delve into the links between powerful financial entities, politicians, and wars, as well as how the Federal Reserve manipulates the money supply and destabilizes the economy. Discover the role of secret societies, their aim for world domination, and the impact of fiat money on social stability.
The origins of the Federal Reserve. In 1910, 6 powerful figures boarded a secretive train to Jekyll Island, Georgia, where they conspired to create a central bank with the goal of controlling the reserves of all banks and protecting their wealth. This new central bank would also have the authority to create money out of nothing and pass off any losses to taxpayers. The group included a senator, the assistant secretary of the U.S. Treasury, and 4 bankers, representing 25% of the world's wealth. The meeting was held on J.P. Morgan's private island and marked the beginning of the Federal Reserve. The need to end the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve System, established in 1913, is a misnomer. It serves the interests of a few elites over the public good and shouldn't exist. The system has failed to meet its goals to provide economic stability, operates as a cartel harmful to taxpayers, is involved in usury practices, generates unfair taxes, and encourages war. It also disrupts the natural laws of supply and demand. The Fed is responsible for fiat money, which is the root cause of these issues. Unless the fiat money ends, the world will witness global organizations like IMF, World Bank, and UN, enabling a one-world government. America under Socialist Threat. America has been threatened by the imposition of a socialist order for years. Throughout the Great Depression, government programs aimed at advancing home ownership created a culture of dependence, which has been increasingly propagated by those in power. The Bretton Woods Conference in 1944 resulted in the creation of a socialist world order consisting of a single currency, central bank, and mechanisms to control all nations' economies. The Council on Foreign Relations is a launch pad for elite figures who want to rule America's government, banks, universities, and media. Past and present members include key political figures and bankers. The CFR advocates for the convergence of the world's monetary systems through the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, trade agreements such as NAFTA, and pushing for countries like China and Russia to join global institutions. The fall of communism was a deception that only ceded some social freedoms to maintain behind-the-scenes control and attract investment capital. The only problem is that this story is not getting through to the public. Bankers' role in military pursuits. The establishment of the Bank of England in 1694 led to financing Britain's military pursuits. Wars became common in Europe, and the Rothschild family of bankers became influential by financing governments. Napoleon Bonaparte refused to borrow from the Rothschilds, leading to their enmity. They even plotted to invade America and divide it between France and Germany. With the start of the First World War, the House of Morgan became a purchasing and shipping agent for war materials, profiting from both finance and sales. Financial interests conspired to spark U.S. intervention in the war, and Wall Street funded the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution. Secret societies like the Round Table worked for world domination. Leaders advocating social democratic values came from factions like the American Round Table, whose offshoot, the CFR, is the most powerful group in America today. Money and power in the U.S. The history of paper currency in the U.S. reveals a complex relationship between government, finance, and war. The U.S. Constitution allows only the federal government to coin money, but this hasn't stopped financial interests from favoring paper money over the years. The early central banks, the Bank of North America and the First Bank of the United States, were hotbeds of fraud and theft and ultimately failed. The financial turmoil of the early 19th century led to the American Civil War, which was largely fueled by tensions between the North and South over trade and financial gain. Abolishing slavery became an afterthought in the North's pursuit of war, allowing groups like the Knights of the Golden Circle to commission the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. This group went on to emerge as the Ku Klux Klan, further complicating the intersection of money and power in U.S. history. Today's financial problems can be traced back to this tumultuous past. The hidden history of the Federal Reserve. In the early 1900s, the powerful elite sought to create a central bank in the U.S. without reminding people of previous failures. The Jekyll Island meeting resulted in the creation of the Federal Reserve, which would publicly appear to shore up the economy while privately protecting the bankers' monopoly and politicians' power. The group used public opinion against financial mismanagement to bolster the idea, and though they publicly disapproved of their own plan, they convinced Congress to enact it in 1913. By the end of the 1920s, the Fed had increased the U.S. money supply to aid Great Britain and warned the wealthiest investors before pulling the plug on the market in 1929. By raising interest rates and contracting the money supply, the Fed caused the market collapse, allowing a select few to sell high and buy low. Environmentalism heralds one world government. A 1966 think tank report warned that global pollution would be used as a threat to pave the way for world government. The report cited war as a tool historically used to subjugate people. In peacetime, environmental concerns would be exploited to keep citizens pliable. The solution lies in abolishing the Fed, adopting precious metals-backed currency, shrinking government, and educating others about the dangers of one world government. The crusade has already begun. In Environmentalism Heralds One World Government, we are presented with a 1966 think tank report on how to stabilize society. The report argues that war has historically allowed governments to rule over populations, citing patriotism and fear as tools to keep citizens committed to their leaders. However, in peacetime, citizens would grow uneasy and thus become disrespectful of their leaders, becoming dangerous in the process. To avoid this, the report proposes that world government be put in place, a move that would do away with the need for war. The authors warn that, to keep people subjugated, a new threat must arise, one that would represent a credible threat of great magnitude and provide a logical excuse for compulsory government service. After discarding poverty and alien space invasions, the authors suggest that global pollution would be the best contender in using environmental degradation to make people accept any burden for the sake of Mother Earth, while their leaders have an entirely different agenda, world government. The report suggests that the first step towards saving the planet is to abolish the Fed and adopt precious metals-backed currency, shrinking government and the national debt. People should choose a solid bank for their savings, spread their investments, and stay liquid to overthrow the global powers of collectivism. The authors conclude that education on the perils of one world government is the best way to begin to pierce it with a million lances of truth, saying that the crusade has already begun.
In conclusion, The Creature from Jekyll Island exposes the cunning creation and treacherous intentions of the Federal Reserve. The system has failed to provide stability, operates against public interest, and fuels wars. It destabilizes the economy, worsens inequality through unfair taxation, and is instrumental in the rise of totalitarianism. GEdwardGriffin raises the pressing need to dismantle the Federal Reserve, revert to gold or silver-backed currency, and promote public awareness of the perilous consequences of one world government. Only a well-informed and vigilant society can slay the creature and reclaim true economic and political sovereignty.